Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
There you are. I'm sorry about that. We had a technical
No
issue
worries.
here. Supreme Court rulings come down today. Birthright citizenship, not in Trump's favor, but expected. President Trump said as much. We've got the transgender girls playing in girls' sports, boys and girls' sports. That's kind of a states' rights ruling on the Supreme Court. And then also one on campaign financing. What's your overall assessment right now on the independent nature of that third branch of government?
Yeah, so for years now, especially in the aftermath of Roe v. Wade being turned over, you've heard the left and Democrats screaming about how this is the Trump court and the justices are only there to do the president's bidding, and therefore that they need to pack the court and dismantle the institution as we know it in order to restore some kind of independence, which of course is absurd. Democrats want to do that to put the court in their favor and to make sure that it's a third branch of government that works on behalf of their agenda rather than being loyal to the Constitution or the law. I mean, after today and after this term, there are a lot of decisions that came down that were not in favor of the president. Birthright citizenship being a really big one today. And one that many would argue it was essential to maintaining the sovereignty of the country, but the justices didn't interpret it that way. So I was disappointed in the trans athletes case. I thought that, putting that back to the states is not an enforcement of Title IX, which is a federal law, which means that 23 states that do not have laws to protect women in their sports from men infiltrating them in their locker rooms, taking away scholarships and opportunities in the athletic field. There's 27 states that have laws on the books, local laws to protect women, but there's 23 that don't. So why is it that women living in those other 23 states shouldn't have their constitutional rights protected? So that was disappointing. But certainly the Supreme Court has proved that it's independent of the president.
Yeah, I just think that that's really the takeaway here. Also, I find that that Congress is constantly just left off the hook. It's almost as if we've decided that they're the petulant child who is never going to find their way, and they're just going to behave the way they are. I mean, their approval rating, I don't know what it is right now, but it's like 10% or something stupid. And they're not compelled to do their job. We've got a Republican majority in the House. We do have a Republican majority in the Senate, but not one that seems to play nice with each other because some of them hate the president. Do you feel as though Congress is going to need to step up and pass the Save America Act, which would address a lot of the issues that the Supreme Court decided they weren't going to activist legislate from the bench?
Yes, absolutely. And it's just crazy how, the Save America Act and the provisions of it are supported by 74+% of Americans. You never see that kind of unity around any kind of issue. And yet Republicans in the Senate are refusing to get the job done. You have Lisa Murkowski in Alaska, who there's rumors potentially she would change her party affiliation, depending on how the Senate goes in November, whether Republicans maintain their majority or whether Democrats take it over. Of course, people believe that citizenship is an important factor when it comes to making sure our elections are for Americans and Americans only, especially when you have local jurisdictions like Los Angeles and New York allowing illegal aliens to vote in their elections. And of course, states like California send out mail-in ballots to everybody on the voter rolls and never clean the voter rolls. So they have people who have moved out of town, people who are not ineligible, people who have died, easily ripe for fraud. So yes, absolutely, the president is correct that the Save America Act should be passed, but I have very little confidence that Congress will get it done. And also in terms of the birthright decision today, everyone keeps saying, well, we need a constitutional amendment to change this. And I disagree. I think there's a lot that Congress could do to prevent things like birth tourism. There's some laws on the books that, of course, you can't, say you're coming here to visit the country on a certain kind of visa and you happen to be, 7-8 months pregnant and you give birth here and then all of a sudden your kid is an American citizen. That is technically fraud. But I think there could be stronger provisions, like we don't allow foreign nationals, especially from places like China and these adversarial nations to come here if you're 7 months pregnant. We should not allow foreign nationals, especially billionaires from China, who are hiring hundreds of surrogates in America to have their children here so they're American citizens and then take them back to China to be raised while taking advantage of that American citizenship, whether for espionage reasons or others. We should ban the allowance of foreign nationals to hire surrogates in America to have children here on their behalf. So there are some things that we can do that Congress could do, but again, whether they're willing to do that is, I think, unfortunately, more unlikely than not.
Is President Trump, I mean, I know he helped primary some of these Republicans in the Senate, and they can't stand him. I don't know if they could stand him before, but they just seem like they do not want to play at all on behalf of the Republican Party because of Donald Trump. I mean, has the president lost his ability to pull the Senate together to kind of rule with that iron fist, the mandate that he believes he was elected to carry out? Do you think that cake is baked and he's not going to get that back? Or does he have the art of the deal still in his back pocket where maybe he can get something like this done?
I think there's enough pressure on these candidates or senators, incumbents rather, like Senator Bill Cassidy, for example, in Louisiana. He just voted against Trump on the Iran war resolution, and he was able to get convinced otherwise once the president went up to visit the Senate, and they had some very choice words between each other. However, you're absolutely right. I mean, Senator Cassidy, Senator Cornyn from Texas, President Trump, primaried both of them. North Carolina as well. And so these senators are kind of like, this is their chance to stick it to him and to get back at him. They're upset that he primaried their opponent and that they're no longer going to be in the Senate. So this is their opportunity to really, do what they can to thwart the president's agenda, which is highly immature and not what their constituents want, of course, because partially the reason that they lost to the Trump-endorsed candidates is because they weren't pro-Trump's agenda enough, which is what the voters in those states wanted.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's like, it just shows that the voters made the right call, that these individuals were more interested in their own self and own legacy than maybe they would have been what the constituents wanted in and of like with the Save America Act specifically being something that's on the table. Before we let you go, Katie Pavlich speaking with us right now. Katie Pavlich tonight on News Nation, Central Time, 9 o'clock each evening. We encourage you to check it out on News Nation. I want to talk a little bit about Iran, the back and forth, I'm very tired as a day-to-day, 3 hours a day broadcaster to be like, oh, we're fighting again. Oh, we're signing an agreement again. Does all of this, is this the normal way that these things go and we're just have so much access to transparency, a lot of information out there, or is this unusual? What's your take?
I think in modern day warfare, this is the usual. People think they can talk themselves into some kind of peace agreement. But obviously, I thought it was funny last week or the week before, President Trump was asked about the breaking in the ceasefire or what the definition of a ceasefire is. And he said, well, in that part of the world, it just means firing less. And that seems to be the standard that they've employed, given that, Iran has fired at us. So you've attacked back at them. They're still negotiating. I don't think that having the Pakistanis and the Qataris negotiating and being the so-called middlemen on this is going to work out well for the United States of America. Pakistan, of course, is rabidly anti-American, and Qatar likes to claim they're pro-American, but at the same time, they're completely undermining our civilization and Western civilization as a whole by dumping money into our universities and, funding propaganda against the West. So we'll see how this goes, but I think the president may have a strategy to get things under control before the midterms. Let's not forget that there were 9 months between Operation Midnight Hammer and Operation Epic Fury. So these things can take some time, and the president is one who's determined not to be embarrassed by these people who continue to fight and shoot at us when they're supposed to be engaged in good faith negotiations.
Yeah, I think to myself, do we really, maybe it's a dumb question, but do we really need a deal? If we have the upper hand that it appears that we have, it almost feels like the deal is for political face. And I don't really care about that. I'm with Trump on, I don't want them to have a nuke. So whatever it takes to not have them have a nuke, let's just do that. But we don't need a piece of paper that very few people are going to even be able to trust but verify. It's beyond that.
Right.
Do we need a deal?
I've seen a lot of talk, and the vice president has tried to articulate this about the management of this problem. We've been trying to manage this problem for 47 years. It has not gone well. It is, in that part of the world, the Iranians see management as appeasement and a way to continue their ambitions underground and to lie about what they're doing. So, this big talk of we're going to set up this big management system of their nuclear program and blah, 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 blah. I'm very skeptical that will work out in our favor, even if they agree to some kind of deal to make that happen. I think we'll be dealing with this problem in 10 years if that's the case.
Katie, I have in my mind that scene from Elf where Buddy is trying to get into the revolving door and he's like trying to time it right. But then once he gets inside the revolving door, he doesn't know how to get out of it. And it's like, is he going to end up on the street or is he going to make it his way into the hotel? It feels like we're in the revolving door right now, and we're
yes,
trying
I
to
think
figure
we
it out.
are. But maybe there's more behind the scenes that there's a lot of transparency, but there's also a lot that we're not privy to. So
yeah, we've definitely
more to be
learned
seen.
that. Absolutely. Well, we'll be following at 9:00 in Central Time, weeknights. Katie Pavlich tonight on NewsNation. Thank you for the time today. It's been great talking with you.
Thank you so much. Talk to you soon. Thanks.
Happy 4th. Take care.
Ciao. Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye. Katie Pavlich of